Pebble Beach in the States, Cypress Point. Yeah, Caddy Master said, "Do you guys offer a warranty?" And I was like, "Yes." What type? He's like, "For water damage." I was like, "Well, tell me about it." He was like, "One of our players threw it in the lake." So I had a bit of it. You can be with your mates on a beautiful day on a beautifully manicured course, and you get stuck in a slow field, you diminished, and that's the sort of the reason behind taking pace and flow on your golf course seriously.
Another episode of the Future of Golf podcast. This is big milestone, episode number 20, where every week I talk to exciting guests creating some of the most innovative projects in the golf industry. Big one today. I believe this is our first South African guest. We have Craig, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Tagmarshal, who have been revolutionizing the concept of pace of play throughout the world, and now have over 500 courses worldwide, including 30 of the top 100 courses in the US. Craig, absolute pleasure to have you on. Looks a lovely morning there in South Africa. How are you keeping?
Thank you very much, Graham. Yeah, fine. 25 degrees outside, Celsius, not Fahrenheit, for your US listeners. Yeah, and excited to be here. Thank you very much. I'm excited to hear it's a milestone episode for you as well. Congratulations.
I appreciate that. Every episode, my guests usually have this, tropical location with warm weather. My previous guest was in Vancouver, and it looked beautiful there. So, don't rub in the weather or anything to me. Sitting in Ireland in April, it's not ideal.
What is the temp outside? Just to give us some perspective.
Here, it's got to be 5 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that converts to in Fahrenheit.
Wow. Okay.
Not pretty.
Okay. I'm feeling far superior to you right now. So, point taken.
Yeah.
I won't bring it up again.
It gets nice here in summer, don't worry, for about 2 days, and then it goes back. But listen, Craig, absolute pleasure to have you on. Really looking to diving into the journey of Tagmarshal. Obviously, we spoke just before in the podcast that you've expanded into UK locations as well. It's not just South Africa based or US based now. So really excited to talk about, your ventures into the likes of Royal Portrush, into Kingsbarns where I worked. And we can, get into those various sort of rabbit holes. But I think a great place to start, Craig, would be to talk a bit about your journey with golf personally. So do you want to maybe give the viewers a bit of insight into when your first swing of the club was and how you actually got into this wonderful game?
Yeah, with pleasure. So I'm an avid golfer. I'm not a scratch golfer, but I like to consider myself scratch worthy, if that makes sense. I started playing the game with my father when I was, as you guys would say, a wee toddler.
Yeah.
And the love grew from there. I guess, the passion behind the vision for Tagmarshal really comes from the love of the game. I don't know if you are aware, but my background is actually in finance. I did a BCom politics economics at the University of Cape Town, and then I did CFA levels 1 and 2. I'm currently a level 3 candidate, although that has now been put on the back burner for the last 10 years, which effectively is how long we've been driving the Tagmarshal journey for.
Do you think you would ever go back to university to finish that off, or are you fully on your journey now? Probably more just for pride than anything else, I would imagine.
Look, it's a point of pride, absolutely. I think, when you set out to accomplish something and you don't finish it, it's always, on your mind. But the time it would take to do that is probably something I'll do in the next 10 years or so. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, no, I can imagine so. And I've talked to a few founders who've been similar to that. They've sort of came up with their concept and just sort of went with it in university. So that's really interesting. So you were just an avid golfer growing up. You guys have a spoil of phenomenal courses down in South Africa. I was
We
speaking to
do.
your sports person of the century, Gary Player, when I caddied for him in Kingsbarns, and talking to him all about golf in South Africa.
The Black
And
Knight. Did he get you to drop and give him some squats and crunches?
he was doing push ups in the first tee. It was unbelievable.
Sounds
So
about
like
right.
when I drove in, I got the text the night before to say I was caddying for Gary Player, and I drove in, and there was one guy in the range in all black, just like pinging them dead straight, and I was like, "Yep, that's definitely Gary," and yeah, just full of energy. And I've told the story many times. Like there was two other guys that were paired, so I think it was Gary and one of his sons. There was two other guys that was paired with him that had no idea they were playing with Gary Player. So they walk up to the first tee and they're just starstruck.
Shame.
And I've never seen golfers as nervous for the first three or four holes, like
But
barely swinging.
knowing Gary,
And
you
they
would
got
have
into
put
it
them at
eventually.
ease pretty quickly, though. He's that type of personality, right?
Yeah, he definitely did. Like just made the whole experience comfortable for them. And it was actually giving them advice the whole way around the course as well. But full of stories and full of insights into South African golf. But it looks like a phenomenal place to learn golf.
Yeah, South Africa is a wonderful golfing environment. We've got some of the top courses in the world. We're spoiled for choice, really. Good weather, beautiful scenery, and we've got a passion for golf, as you no doubt will have seen. We've had a number of top golfers, and that really inspires the youth of our country. Um, so, yeah, it's a great place to have grown up and to have learnt the game. Um, yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah, there was a guy I was caddying in the Dunhill. There was a guy called Christian Burke, one of your young golfers.
okay.
So he was partnered with my amateur, and he shot 7 under around Kingsbarns on Saturday. And he's still a very young lad. I think he's probably around my age, maybe 23,
Okay.
24. So bright future ahead of him, I would say.
Yeah, we've got a number of young golfers really knocking on that door. I think, the trick is to take that step up and really break through. So it'd be interesting to see if you can do that. Um, you know, but yes, some serious talent, and it's largely fostered by guys like Gary, Ernie, Johan Rupert, who really invest a lot in the game, and the Alfred Daniel is one of those tournaments they sort of champion that through. So I'm very excited to see who the next big stars are.
Mm. And I suppose the birthplace for that is your own Sunshine Tour. So the one exclusive to South Africa. Is that kind of like a feeding ground then for the European and the PGA Tour?
It is. I think if you're a budding professional and you're hoping to get onto the European or onto the PGA Tour at some point, or even the Live Tour, um, you've
Yeah.
got to start.
Controversial.
Yeah, you've got to start somewhere, and the Sunshine Tour really offers people that ability. It's very competitive, but it is a stepping stone tour. And with some of the top sanctioned events or co-sanctioned events forming part of the European. So, yeah, great place to
Mhm.
start.
Absolutely. So, Craig, take me back then to the university days where you have the idea. Was it yourself that came up with the idea, or were you working with anyone else on it at this time?
Yeah, so I mean, Tagmarshal is actually the product of a personal experience on a golf course that myself and one of my fellow co-founder John Wilmore had. Just to maybe take a step back, I'd been working in finance on the back of my studies. I played a bit of rugby as well, junior Western Province player. Um, that sort of I knew I never had a future in rugby, so I ended up looking for a decent job in finance, and I got one. Managed equity, and when you're an equity manager, you're a bit of a you're like the race, the racehorse owner. You're backing horses, if I can put it like that.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to be a jockey, someone involved in the race, and John and I had been looking at the golf industry because we're both passionate golfers, saying, "Hey, what can we do in this industry that's one going to give us a job to make an impact?" And we've been looking at various things, and the light bulb moment for us happened on a course in Hermanus Country Club in South Africa. Personal experience, like I said, we were playing in a quite a full field of golfers, and we got to a par three tee box with two four balls ahead of us, waiting
Mhm.
on the tee box. And the idea was crazy that the club weren't aware of this bottleneck, and we ended up phoning the clubhouse, and they weren't aware of it. Their marshal's driving around. It's a 27-hole facility backwards, looking for problems, like most traditional managers would have been, but
Yep.
totally oblivious to the fact that there was a bottleneck, and there just so happened to be a group of tourists on this particular green in front of us that had backed up the field to a point where any effort to recover that was going to be post haste and probably very difficult. And that's where the idea was sparked. We spent a couple of weeks after that investigating products similar to Tagmarshal, and there were none at the time. There were screen-based products, but nothing for comprehensive oversight of a golf course. And that's where our partnership with Bodo Siba, who's our current CEO,
Mhm.
started. Bodo's history very much in marketing, but also in GIS map-based solutions. He cut his teeth in the telecommunications industry, displaying drop calls on maps, and that came in very handy. Um, we then set out to create an MVP that took us 3 years. Didn't get a customer probably for the first 3 years, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was the spark that led to the opportunity.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that MVP struggle. So minimum viable product for any non-tech nerds that are watching. Yeah, it's very and just I had another question on that, but just on the MVP, was there like one or two clubs that had committed to using Tag Marshall while you were making that, and you were just designing it bespokely for them?
Yeah, so we got really lucky actually. We had a few local pilots where we sort of our first iterations we tested them, likes of Westlake, which is a local club, Swartkorp in Pretoria. Sort of really they bought into the idea, and that validated it to for us to continue. And whilst we were building it out, we launched some strategic PR, and Aaron Hills out of the States saw it and picked it
Yeah.
up and were very interested. And Jim Lombardo, who's one of our long-standing partners, basically said, great. We were upfront and said this is a first iteration, but they didn't care. They saw the vision, and it was something they really needed. I don't know if you know Erin Hills, but it's a massive property out in the middle of Wisconsin's beautiful
Mhm.
rolling hills side, and they had a real challenge managing their golf course and pace of play.
Yeah, that's a couple of golf courses there as well. I suppose one of them held the US Open. That's the one I'd be familiar with. But is there another one in the property as well?
No, so it's an 18-hole facility, but it's in the middle of Wisconsin where there are a number of championship resort courses like Whistling Straits, who, funnily enough, were our second US-based clients, on the back of a reference from Erin Hills, and down the road is the very famous Kemper resort called Sand Valley. They've got Mammoth Dunes and
Yes.
Sand Valley, and they're opening up a number of others. So. In fact, we had a webinar with them yesterday. Bordo did. Might be worth going to. Sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah.
steal and have a pun, but definitely worth listening for anyone who's more interested in Tag Marshall's specific core functionality.
Yeah, it's so interesting once you prove your concept in a notable golf course like Erin Hills, which obviously has it's a landmark facility really, like and other ones are going to follow that if it's proven successful. Um, was there someone in Erin Hills that was sort of like that progressive mind that was driving that vision? Did you have like a bit of an internal champion?
Yes. So Jim Lombardo, their head professional.
Yeah.
There were others too, but Jim really was the driver, and he was very patient initially, which is what you need when you're
Yes.
talking, tech iterations. And we're going back now. This is 2014, right? So we're going back almost what's that, 8 or 9 years, and they're still clients of ours. And yeah, Jim saw the vision. Um, yes, it was born out of, I guess, a desperate need for a product that would fill the gap for him. But he knew that the team he was working with, would take his input, because we're big on that, take client input and funnel it into what we're producing. And he really enjoyed that. So we were able to get him on board very early, which was a blessing for us.
Fantastic. It's so funny that there was nothing that existed before you guys came along, because if you go around every club and you ask what the biggest problems are, like pace of play always comes up in the conversation. Even if you look at golf punditry, like people on the TV, what big problems they're talking about, pace of play always comes up as sort of like one of those two or three top problems in the game of golf that has ultimately taken the joy out of it for members as well, and visitors alike. And it's, if you're going out on a Saturday and it's 5.5, 6 hours to play your competition, you then begin to debate, am I actually going to go here and go through this? Again, going back to your personal problem, there's been many times where or maybe I've been caddying and standing in the tee, and the golfers are complaining about it's so slow today. Was there nothing that could solve it? So it's amazing there was nothing in the market before you guys. Were you a bit surprised when you looked around as well that there was nothing that existed?
Absolutely. I mean, it just seemed crazy that tech hadn't addressed this problem head on. I mean, it's a major experience impactor, and golf being such a major industry, yeah, it was a surprise to us. But probably when you look at what makes golf the game it is, not surprising. Very traditional. The game hasn't changed in how many years, really, from a format point of view. And people really revere that tradition and that experience on the golf course. And trying to marry technology with it has been a major challenge. We've had to evangelize and educate materially as we've gone along. Um, but we've been able to do that, and we've always chosen the respectful way. Tagmarshal's first iteration was just a pure classic tag that was out of sight and out of mind, and we were giving the managers what they needed, but we weren't bothering the golfers. So I think that allowed us to infiltrate what is a very traditional market, but as I said earlier, was very underserved by technology at the time.
So I think on that point, I think it'd be interesting to dive in now as to how like the technology actually works. So from my understanding, at least your first product was a physical tag. So was that clipped onto a golf bag? Was it? Is that how it worked?
That's 100%. It's a sort of matchbox size little tracking device that has a SIM card in it and a GSM module at that point. Now it's a 4G or 5G module that was communicating with our cloud hosted servers. Um, it was obviously getting its location from the GPS networks above everyone's head, which, at the time were, I guess, starting to really come into mainstream consumer sort of focus. Now everything is location based, but at the time
Yes.
it was still in its infancy. So we were able to sort of get ahead of the competition and ride that wave and ride the wave of development that happened very shortly after we got interested.
Mm. And I'm beginning to understand why your MVP took 3 years, because obviously you've got the software element, the reporting element to clubs, but also there's a huge hardware element to that. If you're creating, how many did you manufacture for that first batch as far as these matchbox size tags?
Yeah, so we actually, I mean, making them ourselves was an option, but we tried to find something generic. We're not hardware people, so we try to partner with generic providers. We made a few mistakes in the beginning, partnered with the wrong people, but we eventually found good, solid manufacturers that could provide us what we needed. But this is very much iteration one. It's come a long way since then, right to the point now where we're about to launch our a caddy iteration of this, which effectively puts a virtual tag onto a caddy cell phone, so they don't need to carry a tag with them, or um, a player will be able to download a golf application that is passing us their location as well.
Yeah, so you're trying with that, I guess, to make it as low friction as possible for the user, so that they don't have to carry about this device. Was that feedback you got from people? Was it just a bit of an annoyance to carry it?
Well, at the time, it's funny. We've had an app in our pitch deck to our any investors or anybody interested in Tagmarshal for since the first iteration of this. We're going to do it by an app-based system. The app being the part that was passing us the location information. But what we soon realized is trying to get compliance on a full golf course, have one person in a group with a cell phone that is charged, willing to download an application was almost impossible. It was much easier for us to say to the golf course, here's a set of tags, you hand them out, charge them, make sure they're working, you collect them. So that drove that decision. But we're at a point now where I think, especially given the advent of COVID and everybody's sort of acceptance of technology, that what previously was a challenge is now becoming almost expected. So that's driving our future innovation.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that in the UK as well, specifically with, I guess, software as a whole in the golf industry. Like before COVID, tea time booking software was used in a lot of clubs, but then as soon as COVID hit, like 70 to 80% of clubs implemented T sheet software just because it was almost required. You couldn't have groups of 20 folks. Did that happen in South Africa as
It
well? Just
happened.
a massive
It
option.
happened everywhere in the world, and
Yeah.
it's not just T-sheet software, right? Think about the technology we're using to do this call, meeting and conferencing
Yeah.
software. It precipitated everything, and it's almost like it was the discipline factor that everyone needed to have a shot in the arm, um, in order to try the switch and trust the switch and then commit to it. And I mean, it's like, and we use this analogy all the time. Imagine telling somebody that they can't use their Apple Maps or Google Maps function anymore, and go
Yeah, they
back
wouldn't
to
they wouldn't know how to function
yeah,
at all.
exactly. So you sometimes just need a little bit of a push, and COVID was certainly that for the technology industry. Obviously, it was very negative in almost every other aspect, but from a technology standpoint, it jump started a lot of products.
Absolutely. And going back to your, I guess, for the progress for the product, so you've obviously added a whole bunch of features on. You've got some very landmark golf clubs using this software now, from Bandon Dunes, Sand Valley, and then in my neck of the woods, as you mentioned there before the podcast, Kingsbarns, Carnoustie, would I be right in saying?
Honesty as
Usually,
well. Royal Portrush. Um, we've Pebble Beach in the States. We've got
yes.
35 of the top 100 in the world. Well, top 100's a moving target, right? But I would say approaching 40, 35 to 40 big names in golf. Kiowa Ocean course is a client. Valhalla is a client. Oakmont's a client. Quaker Ridge is a client. Pebble, Cypress Point. And yeah, it's a really nice and I guess privileged place to come from, because who better to evangelize a new technology than the top providers of a product, being the product being golf. So yeah, we've been really fortunate, and that is kind of the luck you get when you stick around as an entrepreneur and bash your head against the wall long enough. Something breaks for you, right? And I'm sure the
Yeah.
same will happen for you, Graham.
Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting though for you guys because obviously the top 30 clubs are fantastic customers for you, but your product can equally apply to a course that has membership of, a couple of $100 to visitor golf courses, there really is no end to your market size for this product. I would love to hear if you have any stories as far as like some of these big clubs you're working with. Was there any like moments that just like blew your mind whenever you started launching in these bigger clubs?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not immediate adoption in some cases. You know, in the early days, we got quite a lot of pushback, and I think the 360 circle that's happened is a story in itself. You know, the first iterations of Tagmarshal, um, we had players who didn't like the idea of being tracked, even though the tracking was for the benefit of their experience. And we had guys throwing the tags into the lake. And I can remember a story where the caddy master said, "Do you guys offer a warranty?" And I was like, "Yes." What type? He was like, "For water damage." I was like, uh, "Well, tell me about it." He was like, "Yeah, one of our players threw it in the lake." So I had a bit of a chuckle. But
That would not be a use case that I expected at all. That was not one of the problems that
yeah.
I had thought you'd face.
So I mean, we have water resistant hardware, but it's not going to survive at the bottom of a lake like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that's almost indicative of an environment that's come full circle. Now, people almost expect it when they're playing top facilities in the US that those facilities are running programs to ensure that they have a good experience and a good flow. They pay a lot of money on Sawgrass, and I don't know if it's worth saying, but I played Sawgrass the other day, and sorry, we didn't play Sawgrass, we played Stream Song, but we tried to get on Sawgrass, and it was going to cost us in the region of $800 a round, which is a lot of money. And if we're going to do that, we want to ensure that our experience is top quality. So golf clubs have a duty to ensure that they're selling a high-end product, and even for the guys who are selling in the middle and the lower ranges, they have a duty to their customers to make sure that they have a decent experience. You can be with your mates on a beautiful day on a beautifully manicured course, and you get stuck in a slow field waiting on every tee box. That's going to detract from that experience every time, and it's going to make you not wanting to go back. So your intent to return to that facility will therefore be significantly diminished, and that's the sort of the reason behind taking pace and flow on your golf course seriously.
And yeah, I think interestingly on that point, if a golf club was looking at a system like Tagmarshal, who'd maybe never heard of you guys, I suppose it goes without saying, but what would the benefits be if a golf club wanted to implement it? Why would they want to care about their pace of play? Just playing devil's advocate.
So there's, I guess, three primary reasons, but they all come back to the experience for the golfer, right? So the experience for the golfer is the paramount reason. If you value um, your customers' dollars and their value for money, you want to provide them with an experience that's as best as you can provide, whether you're bottom of that price tier golf club all the way to the top. Um, so, play experience is the number one factor. Obviously, because it's tech based, it reduces your cost to manage your golf course. In a day and age right now where labor costs are going through the roof, it's difficult to hire people to be out there trying to manage the pace of play. So if you've got a system that is, consistent and a fraction of the cost of labor, that's going to impact your bottom line. And then obviously, if you're an optimized facility that has busy days, you're able to, I guess, eke out or optimize your tee sheet and really leverage any space that's in it to your ability, to the best of your ability. So, for example, for a club like or resort, and I'm going to use a top end resort as an example, like Pebble Beach, who sell golf rounds for $500-600 a round. That's $2,400 for the group. If they can find an extra space on their tee sheet because they're running that facility well, that's a lot of money. Extrapolate that over a year, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. But not only that, those four golfers from that one extra tee time stay in their hotel, they go on and they eat in their restaurants, and they play at their other courses like Spyglass Hill or you know the others that they have. I think they've got six. So and that's a top of the run facility who are really driving experience, but ultimately revenue through the use of Tagmarshal. And the same applies to middle and low end courses. We've got over 500 golf courses on our books now, and the majority of those are your $40 to $50 green fee courses, which
Yeah.
proves that this is a product that all golf courses should be considering.
Hmm. And I'm just thinking from a personal background. So we have usually two physical marshals that are out in the course at Kings Barnes at all times. So it was usually the sixth tee that they would meet us and the 14th tee,
Yeah.
just to make sure pace of play. And really, really nice guys that do it. But I think golfers sometimes felt a little bit like they were being invaded in their experience, like sort of like being like parented around the course. Like, oh, you guys like better hurry on. But that was obviously our only solution. But I would imagine with Tagmarshal now, maybe there's less of a need for like constant checkups from
Well,
golfers.
well, it's funny, a positive interaction with a marshal on a golf course actually rates, according to the research, as a very positive thing on a golf course. So, the presence of those guys is actually very valuable to Kings Bond, and even the fact that they are implementing this technology, I don't think will stop them from having those people out there. What it's going to do, though, is it's going to put facts in their hand. So when they have that
Yes.
interaction, they've got a factual account of what's happened, and it makes the conversation a lot easier. They can say to a guy, "Look, again, schedule. You guys are perfectly in position. Look, we've just seen the other course group go through. The guys behind you are in position. Thank you for respecting, everyone's time, and have a great day. And maybe, wind's blowing right to left. You want to aim at that bunker and give them some sort of tip. Um, that makes that a very nice interaction to have, and people value that. They love the fact that you respect their time and their experience. Where on the other hand, if it's a negative interaction they have to have, it's much easier when you've got fact, and you can just show them, guys, you need to get a move on. The guys, you're out of position, and hear the fact.
Mm. Yeah, it makes it less of a debate as whether they're slow or whether they're fast. You can just present the facts and then they can sort of do with that information what they will. But yeah, you're right. Like it all comes down to customer service at the end of the day. Like how can you make the experience of that golfer memorable? And these little fine touches during the day, like a funny interaction with a marshal or something like that, makes someone's day. In the courses you work with, I suppose these top clubs in the US, they also have like physical human marshals like around the course as well. And a lot of them do they?
Yes, and they pay a lot of money to have them, and they train them well. Um, but again, their traditional method was pen and paper, according to a schedule, writing it down, never collating that information, never building trends on it, not understanding the flow of play very well.
Hmm.
So yeah, they spend a fortune making sure that the experience is top notch.
Hmm. And have you noticed any differences in the demands between a US based club and then as you've started to expand into the UK? Has there been any variance in product features that have been requested?
Yeah, I think um, the European-based clubs are very traditional still. They are very much honing in on our classic product, and it's concealed. They really protect the experience from a tradition point of view. And so they've gone for the more classic Tagmarshal tag, where in the States, very cart based. Um, Even the top resorts allow carts these days. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So we've seen a lot of our screen based product
Hmm.
there, and we even have a handheld based product that is starting to become quite popular there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that in your site as well. So you have, and this was my first experience going out to Florida using a product like this. So when you're on the cart and it actually connects to the clubhouse as well, so you can order beverages.
Yes.
Thought it was a really smart feature where you go off track and then it'll say that you've entered like outside a geo fence
Geofence.
zone. So then it'll revert you back. We couldn't figure it out. Like the cart was dead for a minute, and we were like, "What's happened?" Then we see the screen is like screaming at us.
Well,
So we reversed back.
I mean, that's very interesting that you say that. So we typically do not advocate cart control, killing carts, because oftentimes it becomes very confusing and a detracting experience. We do just the location, and when you enter it, the screen will beep at you and tell you you're in a location you need to get out, but we won't actually kill the cart. Um, Sometimes some people like it, some people don't. But yeah,
I think that that may have been another competitor then that we used. But I think so. Your features then that is like a full connection to the
yeah,
golf clubhouse then as well. So fully synced up as far as ordering food.
correct.
What about like weather reports, things like that? Is that stuff you've considered?
And it's a feature. So typically in any location where they've got adverse weather and they need to clear people off the course, our product comes in really handy because you can send a broadcast out to the screens, tell people weather's on the way, you need to retreat to location that's safe and suitable. But it also helps course managers clear the course very quickly. You know, they're guys, especially on walking courses in the States, they got to get out there on carts and collect everyone and get them back to the halfway or where the you know wherever safest, and knowing where everyone is really helps them do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
just maybe to
Go
speak
ahead.
on our feature set a little bit more. So our our key selling point is pace and flow, and the manager's got a dashboard where he's viewing and he can see on his desktop or on his cell phone where every group is, and that really is our driving product set. However, we've now branched off into all these other things that you mentioned: geofencing, food and beverage ordering. We have integrations with Golf Genius, for example, where we do live scoring on those screens. We're even bringing out Bluetooth speakers in our screen,
Wow.
and the ability to transact through the screen using your credit card. So yeah, it really is connecting that screen with the club now. The two-way communication piece is obvious, right? You don't have to send a marshal out to communicate with the group from a pace management perspective, but also from just a general management. You can communicate directly with them and have this two-way conversation, which is why our new iteration of Tag Marshal products are called Tag Marshal Two-Way.
Yeah. Might I request an automatic beer dispenser within the cart as well? So just automatically, you just press beer button and it just automatically
BME,
comes out.
BME. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
okay, I'll put it on the list. One of the other requests I've had is for a shock. Put it in the cart seat, so when the managers get tired of asking people to get back into position, they just press the shock me button, and it shocks the people in the cart. Um, so yeah, I don't know which one of those we'll do first. Probably the beer
It gotta
me.
be the beer. Gotta be the beer me. Like that would be phenomenal. Rob, yeah, it's phenomenal, Craig. Just seeing that you started off with a vision, obviously, and like a niche of pace of play, which obviously was such a big problem in the golf industry, and you're very much on your way to solve it. But now it's expanded into this phenomenal portfolio of products as well, and really, really suited to this US country club model as well as still providing for the UK market with your features. What's next then for you guys as far as like your vision for the first 5 years? You don't need to go into technical detail or
No,
give
no.
your secret sauce, but what's
So
the vision?
So the vision is to keep on executing in the golf market. I mean, I think um, so. There are 35,000 golf courses in the world. All right. Um, you know, this technology probably is proliferated. We've got 500 clients. We're scratching on the tip of
Mm.
that iceberg. There are a couple of other products now, especially in the cart space. But I think in terms of market share available, we're still way off where we can get to. So we're just going to continue to do what we're doing as best as we can, trying to lead that pack. And yeah, I don't think we need to do anything more than continue to listen to our clients and continue to innovate around the product set that we're currently offering in order to do that. And that is our major focus right now. It's all about execution, right?
That's It's an exciting stage where you've proven your concept and you're just head down and just going forward with proving yourself right. Really, Golf Genius is an interesting one as well. Your integration with those guys, how important has that been?
Yeah, it's been hugely validating to form a partnership with them. They are, I guess, the leaders in the live scoring space, especially in the US, and I'm pretty sure now in Europe as well. And for them to be putting as much into this as they are, it's hugely rewarding. And we were sort of requested when we brought out our screen product to consider live scoring, and our view has always been, okay, it's not a core feature set for us. Who can we partner with? And you want to partner with the top guys. You want to partner with the best. So the fact that Golf Genius was eager to partner with us as we were with them was hugely validating.
Fantastic. Yeah, on the previous podcast, I talked to a guy who created Operation 36, Matt Reagan. I
Yes,
don't know if you ever came in contact with him.
I have
He
heard
was
of
he
him.
was a
Yeah,
really interesting chat as well. So his vision is all about just increasing participation rates in the game of golf. They have over 100,000 that have went through his program so far, and obviously Golf Genius saw that and
and
wanted to get involved as well.
yes.
So that seems phenomenal too. What about your personal plans then, Craig, for this year? Any exciting golf lined up? You've obviously ticked off Stream Song there a few weeks ago. Anything else? Got to get across to the UK, right?
Well, yeah, that is the plan. You've got the British Open coming up later in the year, and then also the World Cup Rugby, which is obviously a passion of ours in
There we
South
go.
Africa. So we're gonna see if we can put a little road trip together and play a couple of the clients. Kings Barnes definitely on the list, but yeah, I mean, we were talking the other day. If we were just to find some time to go out and put a golf tour together amongst the Tagmarshal client base, we could really set up a nice little golf tour. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I've played Pinehurst number two, which was a bucket list course. Obviously, played Erin Hills and Whistling Straits. I haven't played Pebble Beach before, which would be lovely. But just yeah, I mean, the ability to have that opportunity is yeah, we're very blessed, and it's been a wonderful journey that's brought us here. So we just keep on keeping on, right?
Absolutely. You're very welcome over to the UK. It'll be interesting to see how the Irish lads get on in the World Cup as well. I wonder if SA will draw Ireland and see how that goes. We've been in good form recently, so I would watch out if I were you.
Yeah, no, I was at the test match in Dublin last year, and we yeah, you guys gave it to us. You gave us a bit of a lesson. So yeah, never underestimate the Irish. I think you're ranked first in the world right now. So um, we're playing catch up.
Proudly so, yeah.
We're playing catch up.
Yeah. Well, World Cups haven't been kind to us. As long as we don't draw Argentina, that seems to be our bit of. They've got our number recently, so as long as we don't draw them,
Hopefully,
we'll be
it's the
fine.
All Blacks that you do draw because you seem to have their number.
Ugh. supposedly so over the last few years. Yeah, it's been great. Kicked them off world number one anyway, right? So, but be interested to see how that plays out. But listen, Craig, thank you so much for your time today. Really interesting to hear your journey personally, through sort of the trials and tribulations of the first 3 years of your journey, then expanded into, a really seasoned product, and hearing about your journey to expand Tagmarshal into clubs worldwide. I think it'd be very insightful for our listeners and for any golf clubs listening. Just on that point, if there is someone at a golf club who maybe wants to find out a little bit more about what Tagmarshal does, would there be anywhere online where they could find out more info?
Yeah, contact at tagmarshal.com, and that'll probably be your first point of call. You'll be connected with one of our sales team. Um, uh, or you can reach out to me. I'm happy to field any personal inquiries as well.
Absolutely. Craig, listen, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure we'll talk again in the future. That was episode 20 of the Future of Golf podcast. Many more episodes to come. Let me know if there's any other guests you want me to feature. Always listening to your feedback. And yeah, Craig, thank you so much for your time.
Absolute pleasure, Graham. Thank you for having me.